Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Techie Garage. If you're watching this in January of 2025, Happy New Year. I hope you're having a great start to the year. If you're watching this in a random different year like 2026 December, Happy New Year still but anyway, in today's episode we're going to be talking about leading tech teams, and it's taken me a bit of time to convince myself to ever talk about this topic because I felt over the years I didn't have enough experience to even have an opinion on this topic. But in the recent years, I've come to realize that leadership can be done at any level in your own small ways. So let's take an example of a junior software engineer in a different company. You're a junior, but you probably went through an internship program and you have working under you now. There are a lot of aspects of the people you work under that you really love, that you feel like have been helpful to you, that you can be able to trickle down to, let's say, an intern. For example, maybe when you're an intern, you are stuck on a task, and then maybe a senior reached out to you and they're like, how are you doing with the task? How far ahead are you with the tasks? And offered to get on a pair programming call and help you fix it. You can trickle that down to someone who's just joined, because if you're new in the field, a lot of the time you're very confused. You don't know if you're doing the right thing or not. You're probably saving this part. It's literally 20 to 30 minutes of your day, but you're saving this person from the fear of, oh my god, I'm stuck on this thing, I don't tell them I'm stuck, and maybe tomorrow on stand up I'm gonna have to say I haven't finished this ticket, and it's been 3 days during stand up, right? So it's a very small thing for you, but for them it goes a long way. So there are different aspects that you can trickle down. Another example that you can give is maybe giving credit. In the different roles I've worked in, there have been people I work under that have been able to identify my strengths, like, oh, you're really good at, I don't know, structuring and organizing, I don't know what. And a lot of the things that we can do, you just think, yeah, we can all do that, right? But if someone ahead of you or with more experience points it out, you realize that it's important, and you probably amplify it. Like, maybe you're a good communicator, so you'll just be like, oh, that's important to communicate really well in the team. Then you can amplify it, communicate better even in other teams, communicate better in other teams away from the company that you're in. Maybe it's a community events team or anything. So such small things, you can trickle them down at whatever level. So from that perspective is when I have actually been able to realize that, oh, maybe I can finally talk about this, because it's a topic I've thought about for so many years. And for context as to why this is a topic that I've even thought about or wanted to talk about at all, I did my first industrial attachment at a certain company called Amref. It wasn't a software development company. I had ideally wanted to do my school attachment at a software engineering company, or anything with a coding product, because I really wanted to code and try writing an application. So by the time I was tired of looking for such a role and settled to probably just taking the internship at Amref, a lot of my friends had already landed other roles in really exciting companies. They're working in these teams. They have senior engineers giving them PR reviews. I thought all that was so cool, but I'm not going to get that because I'm just going to do an attachment that is more of support and configurations, which I really didn't want to do. So I got into this attachment with just, I'm not really excited about it, but it's fine. I'm just going to do it to, qualify for whatever the school wants from me. So I went and did my internship. And I worked under some business systems analyst, that was his title, who was really good at his work, but also his team really, or the teams that worked with him really loved him. I remember there's a time he was very supportive. Helpful. We'll talk about careers, we'll talk about his journey in tech, how he's gotten to the place he's at. I would tag along for some of his meetings in terms of the health space as his assistant, apparently. So it was a very enjoyable experience in terms of working under this person. So I remember before leaving it, I told him, like, a lot of people really love working with you, even the teams that don't work under you. When I tell them, oh yeah, I'm working under this person, they're just like, oh, he's a great person, da da da. So how do you manage to lead so well, or have such a great relationship in the organization? And he sent me um, a link to an article, and he told me, like, go read about this story, then come back and then we're gonna discuss. And the story is basically about, I'm gonna link it somewhere here. The story is about a hotel in India called, I think, Taj Mumbai. Yeah, I think Taj Mumbai. And it talks about the story of how there was a terrorist attack at the hotel, and the employees of the hotel really prioritized the customer security even over their own personal, um, you know, taking care of themselves. So they helped the customers hide. At some point, they formed a shield um, around the customers from the attackers. And anyway, it was a big story, and there was a lot of um, bravery and bravery and it was talked about a lot after the incidents of the attacks, of the terrorist attacks. And I went and read that, and then I came back to him, and I remember him asking me, so why do you think the employees were that loyal, if I can't find a better word to use, loyal to caring about the company and its customers? And yeah, we went ahead to discuss all these things, and he talked about, yes, there could be a lot of, it's mostly about the culture. There could be a lot of training in terms of being customer centric, hospitality in India as a thing, but also a huge part of it is how the companies take care of the people, incentives from how the company treats the employees. So thinking about the employees who are working in this company, maybe what would they want from their jobs? Probably fair pay. So maybe they are paid well or extremely well. In terms of professional growth in whatever jobs they are in at this company, maybe there's a very clear strategy on how they're able to grow. There's constant and regular reviews on what they do. Maybe they're provided with training. So maybe if you're joining here, this company as a chef, they even provide maybe new chefs to teach you about different cuisines. So ultimately, you can see professional growth. So you are earning, you're learning. There are so many other incentives. So he really emphasized the idea of leading with people in mind. And even after the internship ended, I've always thought about this. So even as I finished school and fast forward, got into the industries and started working under different people in different teams, this was always at the back of my mind. I was obsessed with thinking about leadership. So it's like I was trying to form a blueprint of who a good leader is. I wanted like a list of, they do this, they do this, they do this. I was trying to form that. So in the teams I was in, I was trying to think, what qualities about this person makes me like how he leads our team? Or in a team, what makes me inclined to this guy than this person who's leading us? So maybe sometimes subconscious, but it was always there, thinking about leadership. And probably someone who was my friend around 2022, 2021 was so tired of hearing me talk about leadership. They were tired. They're like, move on to the next thing. But yeah, so it's something I thought constantly about. And having worked in different teams and under very different people, there are some aspects of leading teams that I've come to like really pick out consistently as what I enjoyed, and that's what I'm gonna share in this video. So for contextual purposes, yes, I have worked, I work in the tech space as an Android developer. So I have worked in teams, in teams that are self-composed. I can try put an image here. So the team has, let's say, an Android team, a backend team, a design team, data if you guys have that, a web team if that's a product you have the product manager, you have the engineering manager, then probably you have other stakeholders like the CTO, the CEO, customer service. So think about that as a structure. I'm gonna try put an image here. So from the perspective I'm trying to look at it at is, say you're a technical team lead. You can be probably leading is also engineering manager. There are so many like ways to do it, but I want to narrow it down to where you have a direct team. So say you're a technical team lead for, in this case, an Android team. So in all the people that we've talked about, the different roles that we've talked about, at the end, if you're working in this tech thing, there's a product that you guys have. It's a business. There's a product that you guys have, and because it's a business overall, the goal of every stakeholder in this wheel that works together is to provide value to the end user. So you guys are building a product, but as part of the business, you need to provide ultimately value as the goal for everyone in this wheel, right? So one of the things that I've found in terms of great leadership is there's a great balance between the different stakeholders. So back to the person who's leading an Android team. Android interfaces with so many other stakeholders. You interface with backend, you interface with design, you interface with QA, quality assurance, you interface with the product manager in terms of roadmap planning and the product vision. You interface with engineering manager in terms of managing all these stacks that are working together to push something out. So this is someone who's able to manage all the stakeholders and interface with them really seamlessly at the point of what they need from the team. So I think that's point number one, being able to interface with different stakeholders away from your team really well, so that your team interacts with these people seamlessly as a moving wheel. They're not struggling to, we don't have designs, they are well put together and structured. So ability to really interface with the different stakeholders to push the overall vision of driving value for the company. But away from the different stakeholders, one thing that I think is really important is, if you're leading, let's say, an Android team or a backend team, and you're the one who's considered as the lead and the interface between all these other people and this team, you cannot be a good or successful leader if your team fails. If your team is not delivering, if everyone in your team is struggling or they're not able to deliver on their work, I don't think your leadership can be quote unquote successful, because you're the lead for the Android team, but the Android team is doing nothing. So there's a disconnect, right? So a huge part of also now a good leader, from what I have seen, is ability to manage your team really well, and your team meaning the people in the team. So if I can put those 2 points as separate points, is there's a good balance between your people and the product. So in terms of pushing the products, there's all these stakeholders that you're able to manage well, but managing your people is a separate point. And how does managing your team probably look like? Or in the teams that I've been, what do I think from a team member perspective, as someone working under other people, I have really enjoyed about their leadership or being managed? And if you're leading a team from a technical perspective, so you're an Android team lead, you're a backend team lead, I think the first thing is there's technical expertise. So maybe you have experience and you have a bit of depth in terms of the stack that you're leading, such that you can be able to provide overall blankets of guidance on the direction, on what to adopt, on the technologies, things like that. Obviously, you don't have to know everything, because technology changes a lot and you can always learn new things from your team also, but you have to have, one, a certain level of depth to be able to offer guidance and lead your team well, and also as you interface with backend, as you interface with someone like the CTO who's supposed to provide, let's say, guidance and engineering direction, you're providing that expertise to the team, but also to these other stakeholders. So there's technical expertise to guide other people. The second thing when it comes to managing your team that I have found that is really important is mentorship, and mentorship in terms of the team as a whole, but also in terms of the individual. So being able to understand in terms of your team, what level are they in terms of their skills, and where do they want to go, or what impact do they want to make in the team from a career perspective? Is it someone who wants to focus on performance? Can you give them ownership on this thing so that they are able to try it out and actually make impact from this perspective? Do they have knowledge gaps in the team, and what can you do to fill the knowledge gaps? Is there a learning budget by the company that you can tell them, you guys pick out courses and try that out to fix these knowledge gaps? And a good example in one of the teams that I really have enjoyed being part of, the lead added learning sessions. So we'd have weekly learning sessions, and we'd pick topics that we want to learn about, or things that we want to add into the code base, but not everyone knows about them, and actively have learning sessions on all these topics that we want to talk about, that everyone is interested in, right? So each team member would be assigned their week that they are going to lead the session, research and come and lead us on their sessions, and everyone will come and also throw in their opinions. And the topic were wide. We'd have sessions on testing, we'd have sessions on non-technical talks like, what do you think makes a senior? Is it ownership, being able to do X and Y? And then it would be like the question of like, where do you guys think you are when regards to that? What do you think you're missing? And in terms of our team, for you to maybe take more ownership, what can you pick up to grow that aspect of you? And they may look like really small things, but they go a long way, because yes, you can read about these things online, you can attend events, but if it's ingrained in your team and intentionally there's the learning and upskilling, that is really different. So mentorship in terms of the individual strengths and where they want to take their career, but also the team, moving the team as a whole. And the second point is providing an open-minded environment for people to give their opinions. So I feel like for most of the leadership I've really enjoyed is they were really good listeners, and there was an environment for people to give opinions. So I'm going to give again as an example of one of the teams I was part of. So for example, they wanted to re-architect the code base. They came to the team and they were just like, do you guys feel like this code base is the best architecture? What other architectures are there? So it's like a meeting setup. What other architectures are there? What do you think as the pros and cons? You're gonna go read about this, look at our code base, look at what we can improve. So at the end of it all, it's everyone giving their opinions, but at the end of whatever we are trying to do with this meetings is to ultimately re-architect our code base. So at the end, we'll have to agree on changing and doing the best thing for the code base based on what everyone thinks, and sharing ideas and correcting each other, all that, and end up with, okay, we want to change this code base from this architecture to this architecture. This is the why we want to do it. This is the problem with the current one we currently have, and this is the structure and roadmap on how we are going to do it. So this person could ideally have come and have been like, I want to change this code base from MVVM to MVI. No questions asked. It's because I'm your lead. You have to do it, right? But they are giving the space for people to share their opinions and come up with something that everyone has a lot of trust in. And I'll tell you for sure the difference between someone who just comes and gives orders as opposed to someone who people feel like, oh, my opinion is taken into account, is the people working under you are going to approach the execution for whatever you want to be done with so much ownership, because I feel like this is our thing. We've built it brick by brick as a team. So I'm excited to actually put my best work to see whatever we have decided actually, come to light in the best way I could, as opposed to this other option where I've come and said, let's do this. Why? Because I said we should do this. Whatever ideas you have, I'm just saying this, right? That I'll just do it from the point of, maybe you're the lead of our team. I don't want to clash heads with you, because probably you're gonna make it harder for me in the team. So I'm just doing it because I don't want to clash heads with you as the lead. And I'm not gonna put in as much ownership, as much energy, as much the best I can into this, as opposed to the one that I feel like this is our thing together, right? And I understand the thing for taking opinions from everyone also needs to be moderated from the perspective of, also developers are very much opinionated. People will be thinking this, the other one is saying this, but there should be, hopefully it's a team that's open-minded enough to see, do you guys agree with this? Or a point where we can draw the pros and cons and be like, okay, his point makes more sense than my point. Yeah, so there's also the aspect of, yeah, everyone has different opinions, but you have to find a balance to, sort it out. So yeah, I think the second point on that was just an environment of people giving their opinions and open-mindedness to share opinions and come up with the best perspective. Basically, you're a good listener and people feel heard in the team. And the next thing, I think these people care about the culture of the team or the mood of the team. So, and this also spills over into some of the things we've talked about, because the mood of the team is affected by, do we feel like we're learning? Do we feel like we enjoy this thing? Are we bonding as a team? So things like, we have pair programming sessions where you're able to easily talk, speak up our opinions. So the mood of the team is affected by so many things. And it could be things like, we understand that this person also genuinely, something very simple is probably, let's say, work-life balance. I've been on a call fixing the app that was down from 11 p.m. all the way to like 4 a.m. and the next day I'm not given time off, I'm not on leave, I'm still working. So I'm mentally and physically exhausted, but I'm still working, and probably they're not gonna give me time off. So you're not in your best place to perform. And you'll have the other lead who will be like, this person has been on call from this time to this time, so maybe this other person can pick it up for today. You take like 4 weeks off for today to like go and rest before you come back, or take back the hours of your time that you used past work hours. So there's wellness, like the people in the team feel genuinely taken care of from a wellness perspective. If this person asks for extra time back from you, they are going to think about, when things are more stable, the app is up and running, there's no much work for this sprint, just take back the hours that you used overnight to fix this thing. And that goes a long, long way. I was talking to two of the guys that I really enjoyed working under, and I was telling them I think they really did a good job in terms of leadership. And I even told one of them that they were one of the few people that even if they called me at 1 a.m. and they were like, wake up, the system is down, you need to get on call immediately, I would get on that call immediately without blinking or batting an eye, because I knew once everything is fixed, things have slowed down, the fire is down, this person is going to be like, you used time out of your work hours to fix these things. Right now, there's nothing to fix. There's no urgent requests coming in. Take back your 5 hours and take an off day today. And because I knew they had me in mind from that perspective, I would wake up and do anything they need any day. I will ensure quality for anything they need from me to the best of my ability. But because I know the reciprocation is there. So that's a simple example of the mood and how people feel in the team. Another thing that I've seen that really worked for the particular team that I'm talking about right now is there was the intention of making sure there were team hangouts. Now, this can't work for all teams because some teams are dispersed across the world and remote, but we would meet regularly when we can, and they would be so informal. They're not organized by the company. It's just a general Android team thing and has nothing to do with anyone, and very informal. You guys come and talk about anything. You can even rant about how there are so many fires at work to be put out. You can talk about things you're doing outside and are tech related. You can talk about anything. You can talk about where you think the industry is going. You can talk about just anything, even personal funny things that you want to talk about. And I think that made the team really close. We are easily very free with each other. So even when you're back in the professional work setup, you know how this person behaves, you know the things they are into, you understand what things you have in common. It's easy even to make jokes in the team. So the team was very free, and it was a very buddy in terms of everyone is willing to help each other. We are like friends. There's no someone is not comfortable with someone in the team. And yeah, so that really went a long way in terms of the team, the culture we had as, Android. In a different setup that I've worked in terms of breaking that ice or wall in your team that worked for a remote setup I was in, is a new engineering manager came in, and when we were doing stand-up most of the times or meetings, we'd always have our cameras off. So for most of the months, or for a lot of the time working in this team since I joined, after, I always felt like we're not as, I didn't feel as close, but after this person came into the team, they were just like, one of his rules when he's managing teams, he likes for stand-up everyone to have their camera on. And I don't know what difference that made, or maybe there were other aspects of his leadership, but I think that made a lot of difference because you could see the moods of people differently in the morning. There were common jokes in terms of, there are people who had backgrounds at the beach, and we know they're literally in their bed giving stand-ups. People who are free to make jokes about, who looks like they've just woken up, whose voice is, and when different things are said, you can tell who's finding that funny. And there was a little shift in terms of how people related to each other, just from the virtue of the fact, like, let's open our cameras. He was very easy, he was very free. So the other aspect, I think, is really the culture or the mood that you set in terms of the team. Sorry, there's something going on. Okay. The balance going in terms of the team. And I think the last thing for me is they are able to do a great balance in terms of support, but also demand for quality. From the aspect of, yes, they are supporting you, they are giving you the incentives, there's learning, there's work-life balance. You're gonna given your time if you're burnt out or you're feeling like you're out of it to work today. There's a balance of, yes, I'm gonna give you so much support, but also I expect a lot of quality. For example, the learning sessions I talked about that you are doing. So you guys are learning about ownership and testing. How is this reflecting in our team, in our code base? You guys are gonna start writing tests now based on the learning sessions you're having. You guys need to start picking ownership for different features, different tasks to the completion of them, right? So this thing were helping us grow career-wise, but they are directly pulling into the product we're working on, the code base we're working on. So there's a high demand for quality, and there's also high support. And I remember there's a time I came across a tweet, again with my little obsession with thinking about leadership. I came across a tweet by a guy called Victor Mshindi, and basically the tweet was saying, I'm gonna try put it somewhere together, but let me also read it out because I really loved what that tweet just summarized. But it was saying something like, most people think of demanding and supportive as opposite ends of a spectrum. You can either be tough or you can be nice. But the best leaders don't choose. They are both highly demanding and highly supportive. They push you to new heights, and they also have your back. And I think that is a tweet that really summarizes what I think good leadership is. um yes, they support you and give you the environment to grow and all these things, but they also demand quality in the work that you put out. And ultimately, this also reflects in the outside the team and the product and the impact that the team is able to make. So that tweet was such a mic drop tweet. When I read it, for me, I was just like, say less. Like, this is what exactly I have always thought about, and you've put it into words really, really well. Um, but yeah, those are my general thoughts on leadership. And probably something to mention is going through all this, talking about leading people, talking about balancing the different stakeholders, balancing the people and the product. I do understand, like, leading is not an easy thing. So there's a lot, it's not one shoe fits all, just because I think there's mentorship and there's um a good culture, everything will just work out seamlessly. I think it has its challenges, and there are different environments that affect how it's gonna turn out, right? And when I talk to some of the people that I've really enjoyed working under and talking about this thing and leadership and all this, there's something interesting that they told me that I'd never thought about. And it was from the perspective of um, basically, I was just saying thank you for how you went about leading the team, because I think you did this for us, you did this, I changed my perspective on this. And they said, um, also thank you to you guys, because for me to have been able to lead perfectly is because the team was able to stand behind the visions I had for the team. So if I came and said, maybe we need to integrate learning sessions and do this, you guys are open-minded, you'd have to be like, yeah, we can do them and rally around them. So you believed in whatever they brought into this. Because if the team or people in the team were just like, no one wants to do that, they won't be able to do impactful things or what they want to drive with the team easily if they're getting so much pushback from the team. So the team member perspective also really helped him. So from that angle, you can see a challenge that if you have different personalities in your team, maybe as a leader, you can try to implement all these things. For example, maybe the idea you are saying of giving people time off when they look like, you feel like in terms of the team they are burnt out. There are people who could easily take advantage of that to just not do work, right? And that is not helping the team anyway, and it may make the one who's leading the team even remove that thing from the team, and now everyone is not getting it anymore, right? So I think also the different personalities you have in your team, and the attitude, the open-mindedness the team does present a challenge or come into play. And the other thing he talked about was the idea of a new team versus an inherited team. So the team we were working with at the time, he had kind of formed it, or he was part of the people interviewing every single person who joined the team. So he was able to evaluate things like, are these people who are very open to learning, are open to having opinions of themselves on things they read about, they have a good attitude towards working in a team setup and accommodating everyone's opinions, they are open-minded. So it's, in terms of the team formation, he had a say in the people and the energy that's gonna come into the team he'll have at the end. So that also made it easy for him, versus an inherited team where he had worked in an inherited team where if you come in as a new team, which I've heard from a different person who was an engineering manager, um, their sentiment was more of, when you join an inherited team, one, you may feel the comparison between how you run your things and how someone else ran their things. So there might be a little pushback in, why are you trying to change this for us? It may be a good thing you're trying to introduce, but why are you trying to change? The other person who was here wasn't doing all that. So there could be that comparison between who was there before and you that you have to get over. But there's also, for an inherited team, specifically the engineering manager said, developers, because they have very opinionated on things and all these things, there's been roles where he's felt the need to almost prove himself. So an engineering manager oversees all these teams. So it's like the team is sitting back and waiting for you to um, show them you're technical enough, which I think kind of makes sense because people want to be led by someone who understands what they're talking about. But yeah, his challenge was more of you feel the need to prove yourself initially. Not That's not the whole thing you have at the back of your mind, but in some teams you may feel that energy like before we respect you enough, we want to see who you are first. So there's also the challenge of a team you form versus a team you inherit. So yeah, different personalities, the thing of new team versus inherited team. The other challenge probably I picked up was the idea of the company and the overall company and culture, and probably the engineering team culture also can play a role. For example, for you to be able to um, get people to get paid courses and all that, that means the company needs to have a learning budget. For you to be able to give people time off, that means there's a balance of work in terms of how the company operates, because there are people over you who are giving you tasks or determining things, roadmaps, and what takes priority. Sometimes pressure comes differently, and you can't always be the one fighting pressure. At some point, it won't make sense because you can't do that forever and ever if they're not willing to change and find a balance. So even the culture of the company and the general engineering team away from your team that you're managing can make it harder for you to implement what you would think is good leadership. So anyway, as a blanket, it's just to say there are all these things that as people who are in a team want to see in terms of leadership, and they are fantastic, but also there's the aspect of the challenges that I do see that there are challenges. But yeah, I think those are basically the thoughts and my 2 cents on generally leading a team. So pick out what you think works, what you think you can implement at the level you're at. But I also would want to hear your thoughts on the episode or on leadership. If you're someone who's leading a team, what do you think works in terms of leadership? What doesn't work? What challenges do you feel like you encounter? If you're someone who's working in a team under people, what are the attributes that you really enjoy in terms of their leadership? What don't you enjoy? And yeah, that's basically everything I wanted to share in this episode. If you got to this point in the episode, thank you so much, and see you in the next episode. Bye.